What's up, guys? This is Brent with Western Equipment, and today I am on site at our Western Equipment dealership in Amarillo, Texas, and I'm going to be telling you all about the Z950M with the Fastback Pro 72-inch rear discharge deck. Starting out, let's talk just a little bit about model number, as these can get really confusing with all of the different mowers in the John Deere lineup. So what we have here is a Z950M. So starting with the Z, this is going to indicate that this is a zero-turn mower. And then if we move to the next digit, we have a 9 here. So within the zero-turn class, we have Z3s, which are going to be our smallest residential zero-turn class, Z5s, Z7s, and then Z9s. And Z9s are going to be the commercial zero-turn mowers in the John Deere lineup. So we're in the commercial lineup. Then we move back here to our 5.0. This is going to be kind of our model indicators right here. That's going to give us an indication of what type of specs and features and also engine size that we're going to see on these mowers. And then lastly is going to be our M, and this is going to be our trim level indicator. So within the zero turn lineup, kind of like the tractors in the 1 through 5 series and on up, we're going to have a trim level indicator. So in the model numbers, we can have either an E, an M, or an R here, and the E is going to be more of our economy level, the M is the mid-spec level, and the R is going to be the loaded out. So what we're looking at here is a mid-spec model. Now let's talk about engine and some of the service points at the engine and also underneath the seat. So here, starting with the engine, we have a 27 horsepower Kawasaki engine. Now if you look over here on the left hand side of the engine, you are going to see the 27 horsepower with the John Deere above it, but just know that this is going to be a Kawasaki engine, and if you are in doubt at all, you can look right here at the back of the engine. You will see a Kawasaki sticker along with the serial number of that engine. So therefore you do know that this is a 27 horse Kawasaki. This is also going to be in the FS series of engines. So this is going to be the commercial grade of Kawasaki engines with the commercial grade John Deere mowers, as you would expect. Now right here on top, we have our large commercial size air filter. Very easy to service. We have these 2 clips over here on the side where we can remove that cap, change out that air filter very easily there. Along with that is going to be a dust relief nozzle right here that you can simply pull on every day, pinch that together, and let that dust out that has collected and settled out from the filter right here to our dust cap. Now other service points, starting with the oil system, is going to be over on the right hand side of the engine. So we are going to have our dipstick and oil fill right here. Simply remove that cap, raise up, there is your dipstick. And then right below that, we are going to have our oil filter. And then we're also going to have our oil drain over here on the right hand side. Now this is a little different system. As you'll see, there is a nipple that comes off the bottom of this oil drain, and then we have our valve core right here. So whenever we're going to drain this oil, we need to put our pan underneath the mower here, take a flat-headed screwdriver, open up this valve, and then let that oil flow out, and that is how we will change the oil, and then of course replacing our filter. Now as far as the fuel service point, right over here we have our fuel filter, really easy to see over here on the left hand side, easy to get to. We also have our fuel pump right back here, right in front of our fuel filter. And then we also are going to have 2 spark plugs, being that this is a V-twin engine. We're going to have one over here on the left hand side and one over here on the right hand side. Now going along with the engine, we're also going to have 2 hydrostatic motors that are going to be the driving force of this mower. So each lever is going to be the actual actuator for those driving motors, and those are going to be the tough torque heavy duty commercial driving motors. So whenever we're going and needing to service those, we're going to raise up on our seat simply by pulling this lever and then raising up on our seat just like that. And then we can see that we have our hydraulic reservoir right down here, right underneath the seat. And you'll also have a sight gauge right down here. So we can actually take this cap off and look down in and see that level. But we also have this sight gauge over here that we can see from either side of the mower to know where our fluid level is. So we need to make sure that we know where that's at to be checking that. And then right in front is also going to be our battery, nice and tucked away out of the weather, but also very easy to get to once we raise that seat up. Now, right over here on the left-hand side is going to be our service interval chart. Now, this is very important so we can make sure and check when we need to be doing those different services. And it's right here on the mower, handy for you to have at all times. Now, if there are intervals that you're not seeing on this sheet that's attached to the mower, just keep in mind that these full list of intervals will also be within your operator manual. Now, talking about the operator station, there's a couple of things I like to talk about before getting on the mower. And first is going to be our ROPS. And our ROPS stands for Rollover Protection System. So you'll see here that we have this rollover protection system, but this is going to be a very important safety feature for if you're in those hilly areas, or maybe those areas that are a little uneven, where we could have those instances where we upset or overturn. Because if we roll over and we have this ROPS up, we need to make sure that we are riding through that fall. Also, anytime that we're going to be having this ROPS up, we should also have on our seat belt, because if we get in those upset or overturn situations, we're going to ride through that fall with our seat belt on, holding on into the mower, and then let this mower go ahead and turn on over, as this rollover protection system, whether it be backwards, forwards, or side to side, is not going to allow this mower to crush you, and it will come to a safe landing. So make sure that you're staying in, buckled up, ride out that fall, and then safely exit the machine. Now, if you are in a situation where you have those low-hanging trees or maybe those low-hanging obstacles that you need to get through, you can go ahead and fold this system down. It is going to be on a pin system here that's very easy. We just pull out on one pin here, then release the big pin out, and then we can fold this ROPS down and move it to a lower position to be able to make it through those low-hanging situations. Now, next is going to be the seat. So we have on the Z950M models, you have 3 different seat options. One is going to be a deluxe comfort seat with armrests. Another is going to be a deluxe system with isolation. And then lastly is going to be the fully adjustable suspension seat like we see here. Now, this is going to be a 24-inch high back seat that is going to have the weight adjustment knob that you can adjust all the way up to 280 pounds simply by turning this knob, or we can turn it down so you can adjust that right to your weight to make sure that you get the right amount of suspension. We're also going to have armrests here that are going to be adjustable up and down by turning these knobs. We are going to have a back position adjustment right over here on the side where we can adjust this seat forward and backward. And then we are also going to have the comfort glide system on this mower where we can adjust whether this seat is either going to slide back and forth whenever we're riding, or if it's going to stay still in one position. And then we can also adjust this seat forward and backward. Now, when I get on the mower, you'll notice how wide out the deck is here, and that there is actually a foot platform here on the deck. Now, this does mean that I can actually use the deck to get onto the mower. So I can stand on that deck, get on, and then seat myself comfortably here in the mower. Now, going over controls and things that are in the operator station, we'll start over here on the left-hand side. We are going to have our fuel opening right back here. This is going to be a wide 3-inch opening that actually has a little bit of an angle to it to make it easier getting those cans in, as you are going to have an 11.5 gallon tank on these Z900 mowers to hold plenty of fuel, make sure that you can get through that full day's worth of mowing. And then right in front of that, we are going to have our fuel gauge right here, easy to see. Just look over to our left. There is our fuel gauge. Then, of course, we will have our control levers here. Very nice and easy. They are going to be adjustable forward and backward to make sure that those fit you comfortably where you'd like them. And then right below that, we are going to have our tracking adjustment on each lever. Now, this is going to adjust how much we need to adjust either going forward or backward to make sure that both of our transaxles are driving at the same speed. That way we make sure we're not driving with one transaxle split apart where our handles are split apart to go straight. We want to make sure that those are right in line whenever we're going full straight or forward and then going backward. So we have that adjustment there. If we move over here to my right, the first thing you're going to see is this foot pedal. Now, this is going to be the deck raise and lower pedal. It is going to be spring assisted, so it is not going to be hard for you to raise and lower this deck unless you just have some sort of issue with your lower extremities where you don't have that amount of strength. This may be a little bit tough, but for a lot of people, this is a very easy system. We're simply going to push in, and then over here on our right-hand side, you're going to see a big turn dial over here with numbers on it where this cut height will range from 1 inch all the way up to 5.5. we simply can spin that lever or spin that knob to wherever we want our cutting height. Then you'll see a little arrow right here. So right here we'll put it on 3, and then right on top of that knob is going to be a yellow knob that has 2 arrows with a lock and an unlock. So right now we're in the locked position, which is going to keep it up. So if I let off that pedal, it stays in the up position. And if I push down and I turn this to the unlocked position, now it will go down to whichever height that I have chosen, which here we put it on 3. And then to raise that back up, I'm simply going to push in and then lock this out, and then it will stay in transport mode. Now moving back from that pedal, we do have our handbrake here. This is going to be our emergency brake. So to release that, it's going to be a lot like an automotive style on older vehicles. We're just going to push in, let that down, and that releases our parking brake. And then to set it, we're simply going to pull up and it will lock into place. Now, one big thing about the parking brake is that before we can pull our levers in to actually drive, we need to make sure that we have this parking brake released, because if not, if we have it engaged right here and we pull these levers in, it will start to kill the mower. So we need to make sure and release that parking brake before we try to take off. Now, over here on my right hand side, we talked a little bit about our knob here, our height of cut selector. Then we have our deck lock and unlock. Then to the left of that, we're going to have our PTO engagement or our blade engagement. It's going to be a simple rocker switch where we can hit on and off. Then right below that is going to be our hour meter. So if we turn our switch to the on, you will see that hour meter. You're also going to see a park button here, and then it shows you that your different warning lights around the outside here. So if we have different issues with overheating, oil pressure issues, or just other service issues here, we do have those indicator lights. And then behind that, we are going to have our throttle lever. And then back behind our key switch here, which is right here, we have our stop, on position, and our run position. And then right behind the key switch is going to be our choke. So we'd simply pull up on that choke, start the mower, push it down. You do have to manually push this choke down. It is not on that spring system, so just make sure that you're doing that once you get it started and that we're not trying to run this mower in choke. Now let's talk about the Fastback Pro 72-inch deck that we have on this mower and the other deck options that you'll have on the Z950M. So like I said, here we have the 72-inch rear discharge mower on this specific Z950M, but you can also get a 54-inch mulch on demand, a 60-inch side discharge, and a 72-inch mulch on demand deck, all in this Z950 category. But on this one specifically, we do have that rear discharge mower, which is a very unique deck in this lineup. There are usually only specific applications that call for this. A lot of times it is city use or municipalities or other government agencies that are going to be mowing a lot of rough terrain, maybe highways, or a lot up against a lot of edges, curbs, things like that. Whereas the side discharge just doesn't really work out because we're trying to keep that debris either away from the road or keep it going in one general direction behind us. This is also going to allow for less material getting up and on the operator, making for a more comfortable ride whenever going through that rough and nasty terrain. Now, a lot of times the rear discharge is not going to be ideal for those well-manicured lawns or those well-manicured, say, ball fields or things like that, because once we get into that grass, that really nice lush grass, if it's a little bit damp or it's just a very, very thick lawn, what you may see out of a rear discharge is a type of windrow effect, whereas a lot of times what we're looking for is more of a discharge pattern going out of the mower, which you will not necessarily see that out of the Fastback Pro if we're looking at that lush material. So like I said, going back to that government agency, municipalities, that's going to be the great place for these rear discharge mowers. Now, these are going to be 7-gauge steel, just like the other decks in the Z900 series lineup. So they will be the heavy, rugged made decks here, meant for that long life. They are going to have anti-scalping wheels here in the front and in the rear. We are going to have spindle covers on both sides for our outer spindles. These are going to have grease zerks right in the top. And then we will have a grease zerk also on our middle spindle, which we can get to by raising up the floor of this mower. Then we're going to have the foot platform over here on the left-hand side to be able to get onto the mower. You can use this as an actual step getting onto the mower. And then we're going to have these nice poly rub guards over here on the side on both sides, making it an easier surface whenever we're going up against such things as curbs or other edges there, making sure that we're not rubbing the paint off this deck, and also just extending the life of this deck with this rub guard. These can be replaced. You'll see bolts here, 3 bolts along each guard, so you can take these off and replace them as they start to wear out. And then at the rear here, we are going to have a nice heavy rubber flap that's going to run all the way across the back of the deck to help deflect that material and keep it down on the ground as much as possible. Now, on these anti-scalping wheels, the nice thing is that they are going to be dual captured, meaning that they do have a piece of steel on either side of them, making them a lot harder to bend and break and tear off. And then we're also going to have anti-scalping wheels in the front. So whenever we're going through and we're mowing these areas, we need to make sure and have these adjusted to the height that we're going to be cutting at. So if we're cutting lower, we need these in the higher position, and if we're cutting up higher, we need these in the lower position. We just want to make sure that they are in the correct position whenever we're mowing to keep from scalping that yard. Now, another nice thing about this deck is that right here in the center, you will have a belt routing guide. So if you need to change the belt out on this deck, that will be right here on top of the deck. Now, as we know, a lot of material and buildup and wear and tear goes on these decks. So what you might want to do when you first get this is go ahead and snap a picture of that, save it to where you know that you've got that belt routing guide right there handy at all times. Now, a few things that don't often get talked about whenever we're looking at buying these mowers is, for one, is going to be the frame. When we're talking about a commercial mower, we want to know how our mower is made up, what it's made out of, how well it's going to perform. And with this mower, what you're going to see is a C-channel frame that runs all the way down the back of the mower. We are going to have bolted in front casters here, and these are going to be heavy cast iron front casters and front casters here on your wheels, front arms rather, that run down to your front casters on your front wheels here. But then running all the way down the rest of the mower is going to be that C-channel frame, very heavy duty built. Most of this is going to be that 7-gauge steel that we're going to see on the deck, so you know that you have a very rigid frame here to go along with this commercial grade mower. Now, how our machine is going to ride is based on what type of tires we have on it. So you have 2 different options on this mower for rear tires. So what we have here is going to be the Michelin X Twills. This is going to be an airless tire that's going to be puncture resistant, but if we do have those punctures, you're not going to lose out, as there is no air in these tires. They simply have those fins that are going to allow this mower to keep going. This is also going to add for a little softer ride, a little more comfortable, more power to the ground, and it's going to allow this mower to travel over different bumps and holes and things in the ground a little smoother than a pneumatic tire would, but you do have the pneumatic option as well. And then here at the front, we're going to have the semi-pneumatic tires. So these do not have a valve stem and an air core in them. They do have a little bit of a core in the center that does technically have air in it, but you do not have to service those, as the walls of these tires all the way around are very, very thick. So that is why they are considered a semi-pneumatic tire. So they are also going to be puncture resistant. You won't have to worry about changing these out, airing these up, worrying about flats, as these are going to be flat preventative. And another thing that doesn't often get talked about is going to be the grease points on this mower. And like a lot of the mowers, this mower is really only going to have 5 main grease points. 3 of them we already talked about there on the deck, which is going to be at our spindles, and the other 2 are going to be on these front caster wheels. They'll be right here on these front arms. As you see here, we'll have 1 on this side and 1 on the other as well. It's important that we keep these greased, as these do have bearings inside that are going to keep these wheels pivoting like normal, so we need to make sure and be taking care of these, as well as our spindles. Now, to wrap everything up, I'll go ahead and get on the mower, start this up, let you hear how it sounds with that commercial grade Kawasaki. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my throttle at about halfway, pull my choke lever up, turn the key on, and then push down on my choke lever. I'll go ahead and raise this up, take off my parking brake. That is about mid-throttle. We raise it all the way up. Right there, we're in full throttle. This would be the speed that you would want to cut at. Very, very smooth. I'll go ahead and turn the deck on. So there is with the deck on. We'll turn that off. Put this back into position here. Throttle down. This will be all the way down in idle. And we'll go ahead and turn this mower off. Set our parking brake. And then lastly here, we'll talk a little bit about dimensions and specs and warranty. So dimensions wise, we're looking at a total length of 84 inches long. With the Fastback Pro, we're looking at a total width of 75.8. Now this is a 72-inch cutting deck, but we have to remember that we have our anti-scalping wheels. We also have those side guards out there, so it's going to add a little bit of width to this. Now height wise, we're looking at 73 inches to the top of the ROPS, and if we needed to get down a little shorter, we could fold this ROPS down and get down into the 49-inch mark. That way, if we need to get into those lower hanging shops and things, we can get into those by lowering this ROPS down. Now, as far as weight, we're looking at anywhere from 1,275 pounds up to 1,365 pounds, depending on how our setup is, depending on which deck we have. Being as that we have the 72-inch fastback deck, we're going to be closer to that 1,365 pound mark. So these are no light machines. You have to take that into consideration when we're hauling these, or depending on what properties we're going to be on, if this is going to be too much weight to possibly tear up the ground or be just a little bit too hard on those nice soft yards. Now, lastly, the biggest thing that we always get asked about is speed. What is the top speed of these mowers? So this mower is going to have 10 mile an hour going forward and 4.5 going backward. Now, since we're talking about this being a commercial grade mower, you are going to have a lot longer warranty cycle. So the years is going to be 36 months or 3 years, but it's going to have a 1,200 hour mark. So it's going to be whichever one of those comes first. So if you're that heavy operator, that landscaper that mows all year long, just know that you do have either 3 years or 1,200 hours, whereas a lot of mowers are going to be capped out at 3 year, 400 hours for the residential series. So you have a lot more leniency there on the hours for those commercial operations. But guys, I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, we just ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you need any John Deere parts, make sure to go check us out at 247parts.com. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to check out this cool video and this one. Buy your parts right up here and subscribe right here.